Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. I hope all of you are doing well, preparing well for the upcoming examination with your full G-stand enthusiasm. This is a video session on daily news and editorial analysis dated 11th of January. Through this video session, I'll be discussing the important news and editorial both from the Hindu and Indian Express. The analysis of this discussion, the entire news that we'll be discussing will specifically cater the aspirant of civil services examination, state public service commission examination, and various one-day examination conducted across India. So the discussion and the analysis will specifically focus on the important content that is relevant from the examination point of view. So let's get started. First, I'll give you the highlights of the news that I'm discussing today, and then we'll proceed with the in-depth analysis of each and every news one by one. So starting with the highlights of the day. The first is about the new government rule with regards to tableaux, which is there in the Republic Day parade. The government has come up with the new rules, and we'll also see how the selection is actually made, something very important from an examination point of view. The second important news talks about the engagement between India and UK with regard to the naval group. So UK has agreed that they will be sending the naval group for training Indian forces. The third important news talks about the ILO that have warned about the increasing or the surge in the unemployment rate and even decline in the real wage. We'll see the detail to that. That report that has been actually released by the ILO, that is the International Labour Organization. The second last news talks about the Supreme Court report that has come up with a detail about the gaps with the accessibility for the disabled or differently abled person across the court in India. We'll see detail to that as well. And I'll be concluding the session with editorial that talks about a manifesto of justice that has sprung from the crisis. So through this article, we'll see what are the important concerns that is there and how we can even address some of the challenges, the contemporary challenges that is looming around the country. Even it's election season, so a lot of other involuntary part, the things that need to be addressed has been specifically highlighted through this article. We'll see the detail to that. So let's understand and start the in-depth analysis of the news one by one. So the first important news is about the new rule for the selection and process of the tableau. The Ministry of Defense, this is something very important for prelims examination. There can be a direct question, which particular ministry actually come up with assigning and giving assent to the part of tableau which is there in the Republic Day parade. So the correct answer is Ministry of Defense, better known as MOD. So they have come up with this suggestion जहाँ पे रोटेशनल बेसिस पे जो स्टेट्स होंगी, स्टेट्स एंड यूनियन टेरिटरीज विल बी गिवन अ चांस to forecast their part of traditions in the Republic Day parade, aiming to address the recurrence controversy that is aiming with regards to the part of tableau rejections. There have been some state which has been rejected. So government has come up with a detailed guideline that will help the state and union territories to come up with a complete part. Now moving ahead, there will expect committee, expert committee होंगी जो कि they have been formed. They will be looking into the part. कुछ important considerations हैं जिन basis पे states को shortlist की जाती हैं. I'll tell you the detail of that as well. To encourage the new and fresh talent, the Culture Ministry has impaneled 30 agencies. A short of 30 agencies has been actually engaged to design and come up with the fabrication of tableau with an open selection process. So this will be complete open selection process, ensuring the transparency to a larger extent. Now the state and union territories, if you look at the state and union territories, they were advised to engage with these agencies to follow up the appropriate procedures. So the procedure has to be followed in consultation with the committee, with the Ministry of Culture that has engaged 30 important agencies. Now there will be an expert committee which will comprise of artists, Padma awardees, and even set up this based which recommendations on the Indira Gandhi Center for Arts and in the Indian National Council for the part of the culture relations. So these agencies will also be giving their shared opinion, the expert opinion when it comes to the part of selection for the theme that has to be actually selected for the tableau, and this will be finally getting approved by the Ministry of Defense after a consent given by the expert committee. Now, the other thing that is important for you to know is about the eligibility of this tableau, how this part of eligibility come into picture. So as I've told you, the Ministry of Defense is the concerned ministry which actually come up with the circular dated October 30th, 2023. And each year, the selection of the state government and union territory is taken into consideration with center, ministries, and department, and they actually send up their proposal with regards to the Republic Day parade tableau. तो वो अपनी proposal मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ डिफेंस को सबमिट करते हैं, एंड फाइनली आफ्टर ऑल द स्क्रूटनाइजेशन प्रोसेस, एक रिगरस एप्लीकेशन प्रोसेस की स्क्रूटनाइजेशन की जाती है, और उसके जो कॉन्सेप्ट नोट है अलॉन्ग विद द डिजाइन ब्लूप्रिंट इज actually submitted with the Ministry of Defense, and which take into consideration which particular tableau will be approved for the Republic Day parade on the part of the parading parade. Now, the selection process, as I've told you, this is something which has some rigorous process. Experts are taken into consideration from the Ministry of Defense, comprising some of the eminent person who are from art, culture, painting, sculptures, music, architecture और choreography. तो ये सारे पैनल कंसिस्ट करते हैं जो कि फाइनली अप्रूव करते हैं. The selection happen in the phased manner. Two stage की process होती है. There's a two stage. No, the first stage involve the assessment of the initial process of the design and blueprint, जहाँ पे committee along with the representations come up with the participants और necessary वो proposals को actually देखते हैं किन parameters पे वो सही हैं and on which parameter it can be rejected. Now the second involve the three-dimensional model proposals, that if a committee is satisfied with the model, the tableau is selected and further sent for the fabrication. And each fabrication which is made, the material has to be used, should be eco-friendly. This is what the suggestion has been made in the part of the notification that is released by the Ministry of Defense. Now, basis of selections की अगर बात करें, what are the part of the criteria which is taken into the selection process? So there's certain part which is taken into consideration कि किस तरह से वो masses को appeal करेंगी, क्या impact होंगी, whether it will have a positive impact on the society, the theme of the tableau, degree of detailing involved in each tableau, music accompanying the tableau, and even the locust artist involved. So basically what ministry actually endeavor that जो भी टैब्लो है किसी भी स्टेट्स की तरफ से, वहाँ पे लोकल आर्टिस्ट को उनको मौका दिया जाए उस प्लेटफॉर्म में परफॉर्म करने के लिए. Each year the Ministry of Defense come up with the overreaching theme under the respective part to showcase the relevant respective state UT's department on the tableau. तो हर एक स्टेट की जो स्पेसिफिक क्राइटेरियाज हैं, उनकी जो स्पेसिफिक थीम है, जो इंडियनाइजेशन है, उनको प्रमोट करने की कोशिश की जाती है. The Ministry of Defense also share the basic guidelines about the tableau that can and should be included. और सबसे ज़्यादा important बात मैंने आपको बताई, eco-friendly material की use करने की बात है during the entire the construction process that is taking place for the each and every tableau, which is either from the state government or from the union territories. Now moving ahead, UK to send advanced naval group for training, something very important, and this is specifically in terms of strengthening the bilateral relationship between India and UK. So Britain has planned to deploy the warship for Indian Ocean, specifically for the aircraft that will be going in the region by 2025. So joint training होगी Indian forces की with the security forces of United Kingdom, and this is specifically meant for Indian Navy. So that I will have a lot of advantage and significance for Indian Navy as well. Now moving ahead, littoral response group hai. This is also known as LRG. So this particular group will come up from the UK, and they will say that the Indian region may specifically they have planned for their carrier strike group to visit in the part 2025. So it's due for next year, but we'll see that the experience, the best practices coming from these countries will definitely help India. So this steps will build a comprehensive strategic partnership. ये एक तरह से CSP होगी इंडिया और यूनाइटेड किंगडम के बीच में, which will set a roadmap for 2030 as well. India and UK have planned to conduct the joint military exercises, including the joint exercise by the year end of 2030. And this exercise aims to support the common objective and safeguard the crucial trade routes and upholding the international rule-based practices. Something very important that will call for more robust relationship between India and United Kingdom. Now, some groups that has already been functional, I'll give you the brief detail about that. So we have littoral response group, which is there in the north. Then we have littoral response group in south, the littoral strike group, carrier strike group. So these are the expeditionary strike forces which is actually operating. So some details are specifically mentioned. You don't need to get into such deep details. the more relevant and a broader picture is, that is something that will work out for you. Now future cooperations in defense की बात करें, दोनों countries ने cooperations की बात की है when it comes to defense exercises, when it comes to the part of sharing the best practices among the nations. जो best practice हैं उनकी sharing होगी दोनों countries के बीच में. India and UK will engage in the advanced military exercises leading to the key joint exercises by 2030. The collaboration in this will protect the vital roots that uphold the international rule-based practice system. और इंडस्ट्री कोलैबोरेशंस की बात करें, खास करके ट्रिपल पी मॉडल पे या फिर डायरेक्ट गवर्नमेंट और यूके गवर्नमेंट के एंटिटीज के साथ मिलकर पार्टनरशिप पे इंडिया और यूके काम करेंगे. एंड इवन द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया विल इंश्योर जो आत्मनिर्भर भारत खास करके डिफेंस सेक्टर में इंडिया ने इन्विजन किया है उसके जरूरतों को भी पूरा किया जा सके. द टू साइड हैव एग्रीड फॉर एन एमओयू, दैट इज द मेमोरेंडम ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग, जहाँ पे बायलैटरल कैडेट एक्सचेंज प्रोग्राम दी जाएगी. एक लेटर ऑफ जो एग्रीमेंट है, LOA जिसे कहते हैं, लेटर ऑफ अरेंजमेंट हैज एक्चुअली बीन देयर इन कोलैबोरेशंस विद द डिफेंस रिसर्च डेवलपमेंट इंस्टीट्यूट एज वेल. एंड इवन वेरियस थिंक टैंक एंड इंडियाज top apex body is also making a collaboration on that part with the further assent given to the letter of arrangement. Now moving ahead with other news, that is the World Employment and Social Report 2024, something very important. ILO, that is the International Labour Organization, it's a UN agency. UN की एक एजेंसी है जो कि अपने रिपोर्ट में इन्होंने काफी astonishing fact रिलीज किए. They have projected that there will be a modest rise in the global unemployment. This is something which is at the global level. So unemployment rate जो है वो बढ़नी है. It has been cited that it can surge up to 5.2% with the part of joblessness specifically in the advanced economy and other economy which is also growing. So report के बारे में बात करें, ILO has come up with a detailed report. The International Labour Organization has said the report was actually the World Economic Social Outlook report, जिसने anticipate किया है that the world would result in the unemployment from 5.1% in 2021 to 5.3%. Right? The report forecast that the number of unemployment individual will surge by 2 million, contributing to the uptick in the unemployment rate. After a brief post-pandemic recovery, ILO ने ये भी note किया that overall labor productivity and growth reverted in the slow pace has been seen in the preceding decade as well. And the ILO report that was released also talked about the modest recovery that has been seen across the globe. So according to the latest ILO report 2024, it says that the strong job has led to the decrease in both the unemployment rate and even the job gap which has not been there for the pre-pandemic level. Post-pandemic, we have seen that the things are recovery. Even for अगर इंडिया की बात करें, बहुत सारी ऐसी चीज़ें हैं जहाँ पे रिकवरी देखी गई है, चाहे मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के सेक्टर्स हो, service sector हो, that things are improving to a larger extent. In 2023, the global unemployment rate has slightly improved to 5.1%, and even in the job gap, through the slowing progress has still been seen nearly 435 million. The report suggests जो limited employment gains हैं, specifically for the upper middle income countries, is next to 2 year, or low income countries या low middle income countries में it is expected that will continue to have a strong job growth. Why? Because most people have lost their job and even they're looking forward to augment their career via skilling and other important changes. The ILO has raised concern about the high income countries, predicting a negative turn in the unemployment growth in 2024 and the modest improvement in 2025. So 2024 में growth slow होंगी and it might improve in 2025. This is what the anticipation actually is by the ILO, that is International Labour Organization. Now, some other important facts that you need to know, basically these are the data that is released in this report. So the unemployment rate has fallen below the pre-pandemic level. So earlier it was 5.6%, then 5.3%, and now it's 5.1%. So make sure you can remember, if you are able to remember this, well and good, because इस तरह के data आपके personality test में, mains के examination में काफी ज़्यादा relevant होते हैं. Now moving ahead, gaps in accessibility for disabled person across the court. The Supreme Court ने अपने एक report में खास करके कुछ important findings दी हैं about the differently abled individual. A recent report which was released by the Supreme Court Center for Research and Planning has revealed that 50% of the district court complexes lack the ramps and 25.2% provide for wheelchairs, and merely 5.1% tackle the prevailing visual impaired part. So this is something, the brutal reality that we have to actually admit, that when it comes to the part of accessibility for differently individual, we are not that much focused. There is no holistic policy which is taking care for this. नाउ फर्स्ट ऑफ इट्स काइंड रिपोर्ट है जहाँ पे कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट शॉर्टकमिंग्स के बारे में बात की गई है, चाहे वो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को लेकर के हो डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट्स में, एंड इवन कंसर्निंग अबाउट द बैरियर दैट इज फेस्ड बाय द disabled in the existing to justice. It is very important. The constitution call for right to each and everyone. Everyone has a fundamental right and even access to the part of judiciary, even their legal rights. The report said that 30.4% of the court complexes, this is 30.4%, just to correct, 30.4% of the complexes has a separate disabled friendly toilet despite their fundamental importance. And it also highlighted that 5.1% of the district court are equipped with tackling the paving of aid to the individual with visual disabled in navigating the court building. So we need to ensure that buildings आर मेक एक्सेसिबल. गवर्नमेंट की एक सुगम योजना है जहां पे कोशिश ये की गई है कि डिफरेंटली एबल्ड के लिए इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलप की जाए, ऐसी इंफ्रा हो जो कि डिफरेंटली एबल्स को भी प्रमोट करे. This is what the government actually endeavor is, but when it comes to court premises, things are not as good as it should be. Now, platform for hearing the disabled lawyer, government ने अपनी नई इनिशिएटिव में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बताया है that there are some initiative which was taken by the Honorable Supreme Court in September where they have allowed the lawyer with the hearing disabilities to argue virtually and hear by the sign of language with the help of interpreter. This is calling for the empowerment of the differently individual, खास करके जो hearing disabled लोग हैं उनकी empowerment को बहुत हद तक दर्शाती है. This can be a classical example in ethics paper as well. The Delhi High Court too has engaged services for sign language interpreter to increase in the petition understanding the proceedings. Right. While there have been positive signs, this has been the positive signs as per the report, and even language interpreter could have assisted with a person with hearing disabilities in accessing the court proceeding. Only 2.8% districts in India have access to the part of hearing disabled individual, and even the lawyer that has been accessible to the courts for their petition and for their actually the part of the client they are handling. Now infrastructure lacuna काफी ज़्यादा है इंडिया में. I have been always discussing this part. मैंने आपको कई reports भी बताए हैं जहाँ पे infrastructure को लेकर के काफी हद तक there have been concern that has been there in limelight. So the report revealed that the total sanction strength of the judges is 25,081 in the district judiciary, and there are 20,831 in courtroom, highlighting the infrastructure gap for almost 4,250 courtrooms in the country. And report has specifically highlighted that 73.5% are available with the court premises in judiciary, 13% are owned with the respective state government, और 2.6% जो है वो rented है, बाकी के 10.6% is under construction. So if we ensure that we are working with the full potential, the infrastructure lacuna or the infrastructure bottlenecks need to be earliest addressed so that we are working with the full potential, providing the part of the justice to the individual who are concerned with the cases in the judiciary. Now, moving ahead with the editorial for the day, a manifesto for justice that has spurred from the crisis. We'll see the detail of some of the important topics that I'm going to discuss with you. We'll see the details about the gathering initiative which is there from the different part of the individual NGO and the social activists that are working. We'll see the aim to that, कुछ concern क्या है, focus on environmental issues and the way forward. So India has been struggling with the multiple crises. अगर recent time की बात करें, we have a problem of unemployment. Unemployment has always been a major problem in the country. Then we have social and cultural strife, ecological collapses, and even erosions in the democratic rights. Why democratic rights? Because recent में हमने देखा कई ऐसे activists हैं, journalists हैं, they have been penalized with the charges of seditions because of saying against the government. So that is the reason. That has a lot more other thing to elaborate. I'm limiting myself to the confined topic only. So the recent year, India has faced escalation in the challenges including the unemployment, natural disaster जैसे जोशीमठ में देखी गई थी, उसके अलावा सिक्किम में डैम ब्रस्ट हुई है, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट इन मणिपुर, देन वी हैव डेमोक्रेटिक वॉइसेस जहां पे फॉल्स केसेस रिपोर्ट किए गए हैं, एंड इवन the mass opposition members of the parliament has actually been suspended because of some reason or other. That is again a political debate to be discussed about. Leave that part. Now, some crises are also unfolding on the part of the world as well. इस बार 2024 में बहुत सारे ऐसे कंट्रीज हैं जिनमें ग्लोबल इलेक्शंस होनी है. अभी रिसेंट बांग्लादेश में इलेक्शन कंक्लूड हुई है. So there is a part of global chaos, and even the point of address, the alignment with regards to the inclusive and social society has not been properly addressed. A gathers of initiative which is there. December 1885, a people movement society have organized the people manifesto for just, equitable and sustainable India. जहाँ पे हम सस्टेनेबल एनवायरनमेंट की बात करते हैं वहाँ पे सस्टेनेबल गवर्नेंस की भी बात की गई है. There is a part of the national platform that is called Vikalp Sangam, alternative confluence, that collectively advocate for some of the important point, और कुछ important points, कुछ important areas को इन्होंने highlight किया. That area include ecological food productions, decentralized water management, community-based energy productions. Then we have dignified housing, meaning education and housing security, local empowered decision making, and resistance against the harmful projects. So these are the entire gamut of areas and even the priorities that has been highlighted by this particular civil society organization. Now, क्या एम है इस मैनिफेस्टो की जो रिलीज की गई है? फर्स्ट, इस बार जनरल इलेक्शंस में लोगों को ज़्यादा अवेयर करना, लोकल इंस्टीट्यूशंस और प्रोसेसेस के बारे में बताना, एंड मेक टू पीपल अवेयर हाउ देयर राइट्स कैन एक्चुअली बीन advocated, and even to the political parties that they have an obligations to ensure that they are working for the betterment of the people and betterment of the country. Now, इकोनॉमी के perspective में बात करें, सीरियस क्राइसिस है अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट के इंडिया में. यूथ आर अर्जिंग फॉर प्रायोरिटी अटेंशन फॉर द मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, क्राफ्ट, वैल्यू एडेड प्रोड्यूस, एग्रीकल्चर, फॉरेस्ट्री, फिशरीज, and even attention that is given to the National Rural Guarantee Act in the urban area. इसके साथ साथ to make things more viable, it asks all goods and services that can be produced through handmade and small manufacturing should be reserved in these areas. Now, this Vikalp Sangam also had to compile hundreds of practices of the examples and approaches that is there, and even that is producing substantial result in the part. Now, कुछ और concerns भी highlight किए गए हैं specifically with regards to interfaith and inter-ethnic conflicts. We have seen some conflict coming down the line कुछ पिछले सालों में. Hate speech को लेकर के काफ़ी ज़्यादा बातें हुई हैं. Vulnerability of the minorities is definitely a concern for country like India, right? बहुत सारे international organization भी इसको लेकर के इस बातों को highlight किए हैं. This call for the dialogue forum promoting the coexistence, prioritizing the marginalized group in public and private institutions. The manifesto advocates for 6% of the GDP in education, emphasizing mother tongue, culturally rooted learning, and eco-friendly approaches. Additionally, it highlights the need for community health processes, allocating 3% of the GDP, initiating the addressing nutrition, safe water, and other contributing to the healthy life. तो ये सारे ऐसे areas हैं जिन पे प्रायोरिटाइज करने की जरूरत है. जो गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसी है that should be aligned to ensure that these things are actually taken care of. Now, focus on environmental issue. See, when it comes to sustainable development, without considering the fact that environment is a critical issue, we cannot even achieve it. So, the manifesto जो रिलीज की गई है उसमें water पॉलिसीज को लेकर के बात की गई है, नेशनल लैंड को लेकर के बात की गई है, इकोलॉजिकल फंक्शंस, कम्युनिटी लेड कंजर्वेशन, wildlife, the collective rights and natural resources has been adequately addressed. Farming, specifically organic farming, biological diverse by 2040, and reducing the toxic produce for the non-biodegradable material. इवन इंडिया के जो अपनी कमिटमेंट है पंचामृत के थ्रू वो तो इंडिया अचीव कर ही रही है, उसके साथ साथ इन चीज़ों पे भी हाईलाइट करने की जरूरत है. द मैनिफेस्टो कॉल फॉर डिसेंट्रलाइजिंग द वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग, कम्युनिटी मैनेज्ड रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी, elimination of fossil fuel by 2030. Now, these are the commitment which is there as a part of commitment under the Panchamrit initiative which government has actually come up with. Now, उसके साथ साथ manifestation call for the strengthening the part of environmental impact assessment, the EIA है. उसके साथ साथ clearing processes, advocating for comprehensive and assessment for the part of project, and particularly specifically with regards to the energy sector. It proposed for the establishment of National Energy Environment Commissioner, जो कि independently constitutional status के होंगे, akin with the election commissioners and comptroller and auditor general. Something very very important. I personally emphasize that आप इस point को जरूर note करें. फिर writing mains this year, make sure you write about this कि हमें एक National Environment Commissioners की भी जरूरत है जो कि akin होंगे election commissioners और CAC के through. Something very, very important point. Now, the way forward, Indian citizen is crucial for the part of wisdom, proactive holding the elections representative accountable for actively participating in the decision. और हमारे इंडिविजुअल के लाइफ्स को काफ़ी ज़्यादा इससे इम्पैक्ट होगी अगर सारी चीज़ों को एक प्रॉस्पेक्ट में रखा जाए. डेफिनेटली विल हैव अ सक्सेस एंड प्रोग्रेस रिपोर्ट. The manifesto emphasizes the importance of empowering the significant youth populations in the country. जो विकल्प संगम मैनिफेस्टो है, इट्स इन्फ्यूज्ड विद द नेशन डायरेक्ट अकाउंटेबिलिटी डेमोक्रेसी, economic self-reliance, ecologically responsible, and socio-cultural equality that has to be promoted to a larger extent. The main and whole soul motto should be to ensure that socio-cultural equality, economic reliance, accountable democracy, and ecological responsibility should be at the forefront. So this is how the conclusion can be made. Now moving ahead with the answers and discussion for the yesterday questions. For the first, the correct option is C. मैंने आपसे क्वेश्चन पूछा था, आपको बताना था करेक्ट ऑप्शन क्या है, कि सारे स्टेटमेंट्स जो हैं वो करेक्ट हैं. सो डू चेक आउट व्हाट यू हैव मार्क्ड एज अ करेक्ट ऑप्शन. फॉर सेकंड क्वेश्चन, द करेक्ट ऑप्शन इज ए. सो दिस वाज रिसेंटली रिगार्डिंग द कैंपस लीग. तो आपको इसमें बताना था कौन कौन से ऑप्शंस करेक्ट है. द ओनली करेक्ट ऑप्शन इज ए. सो स्टेटमेंट 1 इज करेक्ट. Moving ahead to the daily MCQs question for the day. The first question is about the Supreme Court Legal Services Committee. I have made a discussion to this. तो आपके लिए काफ़ी easy होगा इसका आंसर देना. Established in accordance with the Legal Service Authority Act 1987, the committee of the chairman is currently serving judges of the Supreme Court, and the President of India appoint the chairman of the committee. If you know the answer, I would like you to name the individual, the justice who has been actually made the chairman of the Supreme Court Legal Services Committee. I'm looking forward with your answer in the comment section. उसके साथ साथ इस पर्टिकुलर पूरे क्वेश्चंस की आंसर करने के लिए आप कमेंट सेक्शन में जाएं, A, B, C और D लिख करके अपने आंसर जो है you can drop down the answer in your comment section down below. Moving ahead with the second question, REC Limited के बारे में आपको बताना है. It's a central public sector undertaking under the Ministry of Power. Ministry become important for you, so make sure you take a proper cautions while answering. REC Limited is engaging in the financial project across the value chain, spanning over the gender distributions. So simply write question number 2 followed by your correct options, and you can drop your answer in the comment section down below. I look forward for your valuable answer in the comment sections. This was all about for the daily news and editorial analysis followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any other concern, queries about test series, programs, new admissions, you can reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being stay kind.